What's up, everyone, and welcome to another stream. Tonight, this is demo day, of course, and we're going to be doing a brand new problem statement like we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, and excited to share it all with you. What's interesting about tonight's session is also that you might have heard about this startup before, right? Those of you here who are Shark Tank fans, today we're going to be going through a real Shark Tank startup, one that was there in Shark Tank India. They pitched and they were able to successfully raise. A bit of a spoiler if you've not seen it. But let me show you what that is right here, and we'll get started in just a couple minutes. Quick look in the chat. What's up? Oh, that's me actually. What's up, Ria? Hey, Slick? Hi, Bhavna. What's up, folks? If you're here, just drop a hello in the chat. We're about to get started. So, top level view before we jump in. This is Startup Studio Simulator. This is a part of the 10K Designers cohort. This, another word for this is just assignment, but we've created this entire assignments experience, right? And we call it the simulator. And as part of this, we handpick and curate briefs from startups that are making moves at the moment, whether these are funded from Y Combinator or in this episode from Shark Tank, as well as Y Combinator. As well as Y Combinator? Not sure about that. I think so. And what we pretty much do is if you're somebody who wants to get better at design, right? Maybe you're already a designer, or you're somebody who's early enough in their career where you need this direction to help you figure out what does design in the industry look like today? What kind of stuff do designers work on? And what's the expectation that companies and fast growth startups have when they hire designers? So we're going to be covering a lot of that today. But before we do, let me bring in two people on the stream. All right. I'm going to bring on two folks who've actually worked on this problem statement. And that's Abhishek and Amit. Give me one sec, guys. Setting up the stream. I'm seeing two Amits on the screen. Okay. Here we've got Amit and Abhishek. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey, Abhinav. Good.
So, folks, the startup today is called Prorata, and I've linked this here. I will share this Figjam with you a little bit later in the stream, so stick around till then. You do want to check out this particular Figjam file. We're going to walk through that, but maybe one of you guys, right? Maybe Abhishek or Amit, do you want to give me actually the summary before we get in? And actually, maybe we'll start here. Maybe you guys can just introduce yourself and then we'll jump into the brief. Yeah. So maybe Abhishek first. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been into designing from like 7 years now, more into graphics and visuals. And I joined 10K to level up and get into more of product and UI UX side of things. I'll just keep it short that way. Over to Amit.
Yeah. So I've been into UI UX for the past 2 years, and I joined 10K as a to level up myself, obviously to network, to connect with more amount of designers, industry designers, and to learn various of stuff as well. So that was my very primary reason to join 10K, and obviously I did see a lot of growth from there to this point right now. So quite happy about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Folks, say welcome to Abhishek and Amit in the chat. We're about to get started. What's common between both of them is they've both worked on this particular problem statement as part of their cohort. So this was so both of them were from cohort 8. I think we did this as part of month 3, and the brief was that there is a very early stage startup, and what they're building is a fractional car ownership platform for India. And so, brand new concept, right? It's a new thing. I had not heard about what this was before. In fact, they've even been on Shark Tank, which I found out later. Initially, I think I discovered them via some of their initial investors. But can you guys give me a quick, maybe a summary of what attracted you to the problem statement?
I think just the cars, like I love cars, and then something like this does not exist in India. And I had no idea that a concept like this could exist. And they form an LLP to make sure all the paperwork is in the right place. So this, as a whole concept, I found it very interesting. And they already had a well laid out app for this, and we just had to like somehow make it better. So I think that was like my most primary reason.
Mm. And Amit, what about you?
Um, I think it was kind of similar in lines with Abhishek what I've said. I like the problem statement what it was, and I saw the app and I was like, you know what, this is going to be an interesting case study to be worked on, or like problem statement to be worked on.
Mm.
And even when I was started working on it, I was like going through it. What is going on? How can people just like because car is not like a small thing. It's a very huge amount that you have to pay and to own it,
Yeah.
and you're paying a fractional amount of it. It's kind of like unbelievable thing that is happening. Obviously, there are certain other things that goes on that will either way we will discuss about it. But obviously, that's the whole thing that attracted me.
Mm. Nice. So, folks, I'll share this with you guys again, just giving it as a little retention hook. But this is what they do. So, this is one of the founders. This is Sanjeev, who also pitched on Shark Tank. Um, this was their landing page back in the day. I think it might be the same now. But it's basically upgrade your lifestyle. You can buy a dream car, and you just pay 8.33% off the price, right? I don't want to play the startup this video here. I think I might get a strike. I know there is some. I know Shark Tank is a little bit notorious for doing strikes. Um, but I got some screenshots here, right? Right from the beginning, you can kind of see the sharks were a bit confused about this, right? Like you can see his face here. He's like, "Nah, मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा." And overall, to give you all the summary, I think this is the best way to kind of explain it. This is what they're going after, right? So they're saying rental cars are expensive and don't meet expectation of quality. So rent is an option, but rent is an option and buy is an option. But buy is too expensive. Rent, there's a quality problem. People who can afford luxury cars might not even use them all the time. Maybe they have multiple cars. Um, and in general, everybody finds them hard to afford. And so what Prorata does is it helps you buy a fraction of the car, right? So the way Sanjeev describes it, it's an asset light model, which is they don't own the cars themselves, but they kind of facilitate this thing where multiple people can come together and do a fractional ownership. Now that's the core base of it, right? Um, Real quick in the chat, those of you who have a car, would you want to buy a second luxury car on fractional? Does that sound interesting to you? Just curious. And those of you who don't have a car, do you see yourself maybe using this at some point? And if you could tell me a little bit why, I'll have a look at the chat as well. Yeah. What do you guys feel now that you know the concept? What were your guys' initial impressions after going through this?
I think for someone who does not own a car, um, it's like a great way to like tread the waters and see how it is like. Like even if you go for something like an Alto, it will cost you like 3 to 4 lakhs, but then you are getting to own a Thar at far less price. So that's a good way to see whether you invest that much money and do you end up using the car for 30 days in a year. And if
Mm,
you do that, then people might tend to like buy a car for themselves on their own.
mm,
Yep, yep. It kind of excites you in a way. So it makes you think, is it really possible that I can buy that car that I'm looking for? So it
mm,
can be anything, like like Abhishek mentioned. So in my case, I like Mercedes or Audi, just in case. So it just makes me think like, hey, it is a reality that can come. Like I can own a fractional, like I can own this car in a fractional amount.
mm. I see in the chat some people are like yes. I mean, you'll need to give me more context on that. Someone's like no. Okay, so we got both sides of that. Um, Folks, let's unpack the problem statement a bit, right? So as designers, of course, we have a bit of a context of what the company does. The company has products. How exactly does it work? You know the concept basic of it, but some of the questions that they try to answer on their homepage. Number one, with a trusted community. So one of the doubts I think people have is who else am I owning it for with, right? Like who else is owning this? Because based on that, you might have a question around what if I need it and the other person also needs it? Hamari ladai ho jayegi, and it's a hassle, right? So the thing that they straight up address is its trusted community. They kind of do this with residential societies, which is interesting. It's a new car, so not a second-hand marketplace. You are getting a new one. There is this thing which they have here, which you can actually sell your part of it later, and so you maybe even get your investment back. And ProRata as a service provider, they help you firstly form this group. They help you discover cars that are available and other people are interested in the platform. And then they also take care of this stuff, right? So just some of the paperwork behind it, as well as upkeep. Okay. Let's jump in here. Let me actually share the link to you guys, okay, as we go in. So let's start here. Maybe Amit, you can talk about what were, so they do have a current app, right? They have an existing app, and I think they had this on Shark Tank as well. They showed a demo where they walked through the app. What are some of the issues that you identified, Amit? Because I do see that you did a audit going through and some of this. So could you just quickly talk about some of this stuff? And I can follow your cursor if that makes it easier.
Okay. It seems like, so I'm using my office laptop actually. So they're asking for home system settings. So
No
it's
worries.
like whole another thing.
No worries. You can just verbally tell me. No issues. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So while I started working through it, before even jumping into this, first I went to their app just to understand what it is about, understand the whole business concepts. Uh, I try to understand what the whole how the process works. And afterwards, I started looking into their challenges. So I went through their very basic process of it, understanding what the visual challenge is about, what the UX challenge is about, how user will rush through it. Uh, Basically, a complete audit of very very small stuff, even like the colors or like as an interaction. And as you can see, some of the cars the cars are getting out of the cards. Like I mean, like how is it really possible that you are designing like that? So there are a lot of challenges that are there that I have mentioned in a file itself.
What are the biggest issues that you guys observed with the current app?
I think the biggest issue is the trustability that you need to develop at the very first impression when you are jumping into an app and you see like, hey, we are doing this. Are you how can we make you interested to make those payments or like to register to book the car?
Like in Shark Tank, he mentioned that it's a good way for them to filter out by asking people to like pay 99 rupees and mark your interest. But on the other hand, something like this does not exist in India. Like it has never existed before. So obviously, like your first thought that crosses your head is like, is this legit? So it's very important to like build that trust that something like this exists and we can make it work for you.
So, folks, let me give my thoughts as well, right? Why did I pick this problem statement? Like, what if they already have an app, they have a website, they've raised money? What's the issue? Why do we need to work on this as a problem statement? So, I went through the website, I saw this. It was clear to me that they're early enough in their thing that they don't have maybe designers on board. Maybe they're working with freelancers, I'm not sure. But just looking at this font right here, right? They're just using maybe just Roboto or Helvetica up front. So I was like, okay, clearly they have not really thought about brand to a full extent. Downloading the app, going through this, it did seem a bit too, a bit too raw, right? For example, some of the things that I observed, let me show you guys the screen. So this is when you open the app, get your dream car now, okay? Now, once you're here, this is kind of the main thing where it does try to explain what it is. So, why should you use it? How does it work? What's the difference? And they do have, videos and text both to explain. But going through this, few issues I noticed, right? Number one, actually, let me go through some of the ones Amit mentioned, right? Assuming somebody has not watched the Shark Tank episode, assuming they're downloading this either directly from the App Store or directly from the website, trust building is a huge one, right? And what does trust mean here? Number one, it's a new startup. So you have probably not heard about reviews about it yet. And secondly, the thing that you mentioned, which is they're saying sign up by paying 99 rupees. So it's like, wait, for that ticket price, why do I pay 99? What exactly does that work? They have this concept of a ticket where they say this is the on-road price. Let's see. Let me show you guys this. They say this is the onboard price. So let's say you're interested in getting a Thar, right, as your car that you want ownership of. There's a number of tickets you can get. So each ticket has different ownership. There is a price, but this is the ticket price. There is also an off-road price that you normally hear about, which includes state taxes and all of that stuff. But overall, my putting together this brief, my main thing was number one, trust. How can we make this more trustworthy? Number two, how can you explain the concept in a better way? Because they're not just going to have this question of how does it work when they first download the app. So not just onboarding, but throughout the journey, they're going to need reassurance of, okay, what exactly goes on, the questions that they have. Yeah. You guys want to take me through some of your work?
Yep.
Yeah. I'll follow your cursor though.
So as we have told, like, are you following my cursor?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you have mentioned, the trustability was very huge issue within the app, and along with it, they were not really like properly explained in their website or like even through the app, like how are they really solving their what the business is about, what user can expect. If there is a type of a ticket, then how much can a user can own? The whole lot of scheduling thing, how can a user can book and what is going to be happen uh, if two persons were able to book in the same day. Like that, there are a lot of limitations as well at the same time. Like user also had a doubt, like if accidents were to happen, who is going to be, the challenges were, who is going to pay for all those accidental covers and everything. So that's where most of the issues and the common concerns were had. So jumping into it, I'll start with the onboarding itself to give a very straightforward what they can expect, what user can expect with their application with the app, and what the pro rata is about. A very brief description about it. What the pro rata is, how can they, what the fractional ownership is about, what the community is, how you can book and reserve, within the pro rata, and you can use if there were services has to be done, any cleanliness or any kind of stuff has to be done, how pro rata can take care of it. You can also transfer the ownership at later stage as well if you are done with the car itself. Um, and we followed with the basic sign up and login process what they have. Like even over there they had challenges like some kind of backend issues or like maybe a bug where the OTP is not really coming at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I follow like the same process. of it here as well. The sign up and login process basically will be the same. We'll taking the name and phone number, and through DB, just whole thing signing up the user makes it easier.
Mm.
Uh, then coming into home screen, as you can see, the user is getting introduced to what they can own a car, a video of them, a video of it explaining what the process is about, a very brief description of it, then followed by how do they operate the whole business, how they operate, and very simple terms.
Mm.
Um and then followed by the browse cast and community that is present, that they display over it. Then if they have the FAQs, it is listed within the app itself. They can go through it. They can understand if they have any queries. Obviously,
Mm.
they'll understand most of these things are covered over here.
Got it.
If they have more questions, they can contact us. So, yeah.
Got it.
So main thing over here is like we need to make sure. My main thought process was to make sure the user should understand uh, what he's looking for. If he's looking for a
Mm.
car, then how it is going to be. They can book it, like
Got
how they
it.
can be able to purchase it.
Quick
And if they are
timeout,
looking
okay?
for a
I just want to
yeah,
take people through just comparing, okay? So I see comment from Mohit, which says, can't trust Indians with car, maintenance issue, fight over hygiene, accidental issues. Personally, I would like 100% ownership. So Mohit, good point, right? And I would say these kind of observations as a designer, good to make because it's good to think about what would my own reaction be to something like this as a user. And that kind of gives you a bit of an insight into what people might think about as well. Looking at this though, the reason I brought this up is you can see currently this is what they open on. So, just get your dream car. Personally, I thought that this was a bit vague, the current thing, because get your dream car could refer to three things. It could refer to buying a car, it could refer to renting a car, or in this case, the third thing, which is a mix of both, which is fractional. So, what I like is Amit has taken these core questions that people have, or let's just say concerns, which is, these things that are on the website, and it's kind of made them part of the onboarding so that it addresses these concerns upfront. Also, from a UX perspective, folks, just take a look at this. Um, from a UX perspective, it's skippable. So it doesn't really block you from going forward. So it kind of maybe an auto scroll, but it just takes you through the things you need to know. Of course, you can always just skip this and just go next. From a UI perspective, what I like that Amit has done is number one, an illustration style. So currently, if you look at their site and website, they didn't really have an illustration style. Like you can see they're using a few of these flat illustrations, but not really consistent, right? It kind of feels like um, it does not really go with brand, right? Like you can see the like this illustration and this, you can see they're two different styles. Anyways, so I like your style, bro. This is a nice one. Other than that, what else, right? Looking at this, one of my questions was, okay, to like I think a good thing to show is an example of what can I get. And so when you land on this site, what can I get? I see they were using a Ferrari, but there was no Ferrari on the platform, right? As far as we know, there's no
yeah,
Ferrari on the platform. So I think I think during our feedback sessions, one of the things I'd mentioned was it'd be a good idea to show me a real car that's available so that I actually get an idea.
yes,
Okay. From a information architecture perspective, right? Let's take a quick audit here, folks. Their top level tabs. So when you finish your onboarding, you land on the home page. Home is their central tab here. Other than this, they have browse and community. They also have a hamburger navigation, right? Um, just going through, browse lets you see cars. Community, my guess is it lets you see people who are interested, but you have to pay for this. So they have some kind of paywall here as well. This same paywall, I'm assuming, is this here as well. Can you guys talk a little bit? So before we actually go into this, can you talk about what was your early process like? So I see a question from Desh who says, how did you research and start? And then maybe we can talk about UI. So Abhishek, do you want to talk a little bit about your explorations here?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, So I did not spend a lot of time in terms of user research because I'm not currently based out of India, so I could not like do any groundwork. Plus, the whole timeline was in 2 weeks. So I just decided something similar to what Amit did, that I had done a screen by screen analysis and figuring out what things can be improved. So that was one thing. Another thing that I tried looking at is something that the founder Sanjeev he mentioned that something like this does not exist anywhere. But I did some my own research and I found similar platforms, not in India though, but in
Mm,
other countries have a similar concept. And I checked those out, and none of them have a app as of now. They all work on websites. So that was a good way to like understand how others are doing it.
mm,
But from an app perspective, I could not find any direct reference. I know we talked about Rally, but Rally
yeah.
also seems more like a mix of auction kind of thing as well, and not
Yes.
exactly a rental platform or something that focuses on cars specifically.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
So not much of a
Hmm.
reference over there. So I think I started looking at other car-based apps on Mobin. That was a good reference point because you get to see how people showcase car. Now in Turo is an app that I absolutely loved. Very clean. Uh, it's your another car rental platform, but it's unlike your Zoom cars. Like it's the owners themselves are leasing out their cars for people to
Mm-hmm.
use. That's like the key difference I found. So that became a big reference point for me. And then going ahead, I think uh, one of the things that we tend to do is since we're talking about cars, we end up looking at references only for car-based apps. But then you just limit your approach. So instead of doing that, I started looking at other apps as well, specific to screens. Like I spent a major chunk of my time working on the onboarding. So I went through a lot of apps and how they onboard and how they engage the user. So that was like my main point on
Mm-hmm.
working, that if I can somehow hook the users initially and make them feel that it's premium, it's trustworthy, then people would willingly do these steps going ahead.
Mm. Got it. So to answer that question in the chat, basically, um, when you have a problem statement like this, how do you start? My suggestion to all of you is start with what you have available, which is do an existing audit of the company, right? So this could be like just absorbing as much as you can about the company. Who started it? It could be the business side. Who started it? How does it work? What's the model, business model? It could be doing an audit. So one of the common things I also see Abhishek and Amit both, what they did was a screen by screen audit, which is, can I go through the app in a deep way, right? It's we all use apps as users, which is like casually, but can I go through it with a fine tooth comb and find specifically, putting myself in the user shoes, what exactly it's for? Now, of course, one thing you can also do is primary research, right? If you have the time for it. Now, primary research in this case would mean maybe talking to some real people. In this case, has, given that this is new, I'm not sure you could talk to somebody who already has a fractional car. But an interesting thing, just as an FYI to you guys, if you're in this kind of scenario, one thing you can think about is people who've bought cars, people who are likely to be target users. If you are a target users going yourself through this thing. But in this case, given that it was a simulator, given that it was a short amount of time that you had done, I think a good approach would be doing kind of a little bit more secondary research, trying to look at other car platforms, trying to, whether that's in India or abroad, um, and really using that as kind of an industry benchmark for how good can it be. What are the things that I could possibly consider? All right,
There's one more
Amit.
thing I'd like to add.
Yeah.
So, I
Mm.
mean, you can also check out the Play stores as well.
Mm.
You will find common comments over there, but there are certain unique comments that you will obviously find it time to time. So
Mm.
even they give you a perspective about the app as well, what people have done it, why they have purchased it. So it gives you an idea. So that even that place is a very good uh, place to start to understand the problem.
Got it.
Yeah. There are times when I've seen people put down some really nice suggestions in those Play Store reviews.
Mm.
And then you're like, that's a good idea.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100% agreed, right? Play Store reviews, if possible, Reddit reviews. That's another possible way because a lot of people are just honest on Reddit. Maybe not for an Indian startup, but for others. Yeah, good sources. Amit, do you want to pick us off? Maybe talk about what exactly did you change in terms of the layout and what are the things that were most challenging for you?
I think the most challenging thing was to understand if they are going through and if they are interested in the car itself. I wanted to understand what they are looking for it and wanted to give them the idea, a user perspective about, hey, if I'm buying a car, how much I have to pay, what is the ticket is going to be about, how much going to be, if the ownership of the car, or like let's say there is a ticket, three tickets that you can own. That's a basic limited amount of tickets that any person can own. So if three is the limit, then where I can find that information? How can I show that information?
Mm.
And another challenge is like very common challenge that I mentioned earlier, like how scheduling is going to work, how many days I'm going to use, if there is accidents before and after, who is going to be paying for that.
Mm.
Then if there is a petrol issue, then who is going to do that for it? So all those things I've tried to address it when they are browsing for any of the cars. And also yeah, like I mentioned, like bike owning is better than the renting a car. So there are the few details that they have explained it. I feel like this could have been a way better way to explain it at the time, and also try to show them the communities that are interested in this car itself, so they can just directly browse to the community itself.
Mm.
So if they are interested in the community, uh, obviously to join the community they have to pay it, but they can look for the people. They can see who has joined the created the community, and they can join that community by paying it.
Mm. Got it.
I think the community page, it's here. Yeah, this one.
Mm. Got it.
So this is done like after you have made the payment, so you can directly chat with the group itself, get to
Mm.
know. Obviously, I remember our feedback section where you have mentioned like there is a privacy issue might happen, or you come to know like, hey, one of your friends is, yeah, is interested in purchasing this car. So it was a new scenario for me, kind of, and I did want to look into it again, but yeah.
Mm. Got it. I see comment here. What was the design process? So, Desh, quick heads up. I'm not going to show you guys the entire Figma file of their work, Abhishek and Amit. I'm going to just keep that private. Here, we've just gotten a little bit of some snippets from it. But overall, the process that was followed, just to give a small look into it, was doing some secondary research, understanding the problem space, looking at some other apps that are also in this. Then a lot of this was translated. Then there was an audit. So audit of the current status quo. What's the app doing well? What's the app not doing well? What are the concerns that come up? So you can kind of do maybe a screen by screen audit, or maybe you can think about what's one user journey, and along that user journey you do the audit. But once you're done with that, then you would probably think in terms of information architecture. So you can see here that the current, as part of your audit, you see the current architecture is this. So you've got this and the home. Quick question to you guys. Were there major changes to the information architecture? What did you have to think about. Abhishek, and maybe we can talk about yours here. You can look at your here. But yeah.
I think in terms of the actual flow of the app, I chose not to change a lot of stuff, but
Mm,
instead I introduced something new that did not exist.
mm,
Instead of going the traditional onboarding route, I wanted to introduce something like a questionnaire, which could be a personalized like thing for each and every user. I've talked more about each of these points in the case study that I recently posted,
mm,
but my idea was to kind of take them through a personalization journey. Like for example, once you make an account on Spotify or maybe even YouTube Music, they make you choose some artists at the start and they try to get to know what your taste is, what
mm,
kind of music you're listening to, and the artist you follow. So my idea was based on this, and it's something that I was not entirely able to implement. But I think after these 5 questions, the next logical step would have been to like somehow integrate information from the user there itself, like
like
get
what?
hold of their email ID and their
Mm,
phone number,
mm-hmm,
and then based on the input that they've given and also the location, very important point, we can like give them suggestions like these are the cars that people are looking for in your area, and based on your marked interests, this is what we suggest. So I feel this in a way kind of speeds up the co-owning process. So I feel like if 12 people are signing up for one car, and
mm-hmm,
the long quicker it the whole process is done, and like Prorata already has like 12 members assigned to one car, the faster that people can actually get the car. And I think on Shark Tank they mentioned that the whole process takes around 60 to 90 days.
okay.
But for that 60 to 90-day period to kick off, you need to have 12 people like well committed to that car.
Mm-hmm, got it. Actually, do want to go through your case study. So let's do that. Folks in the chat, real quick, if you have opened your Figjam, if you've opened the Figjam, real quick, I want you to just drop a hello here. And maybe Abhishek and Amit, you guys could do this as well.
Yeah.
Just because, we're here on this live stream, this moment in time. Uh, let's just save this. Yeah. So, folks, again, the link to this, if you want this to save this for reference, I've pinned it as a comment. Check it out. Do drop a comment here, right? Just so I kind of see that you were here during the live stream. Yeah. For now, let me open up Abhishek's case study. Let's go through that. Okay. So you've got your prototype up front. Let's go through. Okay. So ODP based login flow, similar to how it was. Confirm email ID for authentication, one tap link. All right. So one of the changes, folks, you see as Abhishek, the homepage, he's kind of made it visually a little bit more interesting. Some of the differences you'll notice if you have the Figma file open, you can maybe open the current one if you want to compare. So, folks, you'll notice this. Number one, he's kind of added a location thing on top. I think for an app like this, location is super important, especially because given that it's early, they might not be available in every single Indian city, right? Typically, early stage startups like this start off with some markets. I think if I remember correctly, they're starting with Delhi NCR as their market and then expanding from there. So he's added location here, popular cars to give you an idea of what's available on the platform. So if you look at the other, if their current app, they were kind of showing a Ferrari and just random stuff. Here, one change that I think Abhishek and Amit both have done is number one, use good imagery. So if you notice, let's come back here. You notice the current app, it does not use real imagery, right? And what I mean by real is, yes, this is a real image of a Thar, but it's a PNG kind of cutout. You can't really see too much about it. Now, of course, I'm sure this was an intentional design decision. But okay, there's real images being used here. And instead of the Ferrari, using something that's real, how it works, FAQs, which is how do I actually understand my concerns about it, and a CTA here for a referral flow. You can use this to explore cars that are available on the platform. Let's open one of these. So I've got a Mini Cooper, 4 lakhs for the ticket. I know it originally costs 51 lakhs on road price. One ticket. So I can see there are 12 tickets. Okay. What are AMC charges? What's AMC, guys? What's
So AMC is like in service based, like they are providing these services to the car.
okay?
Your annual maintenance contract.
So you pay a certain amount depending upon how much you have owned the ticket.
Got it. Okay, I can
Like
see
you
you put an
purchase
information
the
icon there.
car.
So yeah, I can probably click that to see some context. Yeah.
I think you get an AMC with almost every car or two-wheeler that you purchase these days.
Got it. Okay. You have a referral flow here as well. Cool. Let's read the case study. Let's jump back in here. About prorata. This is how it works. Folks, I've also dropped a link to this case study. If you kind of just want to read it, it's right here. I would also actually suggest to those of you who are watching, do watch the Shark Tank episode. Right? I don't want to play it on the stream, but do watch it. I think this will give you a good view straight from the founder. How do they pitch their own startup? Yeah. Okay. Okay. A side note for people who are watching, personally, now if a question that I see often is people are like, what's the best way to showcase my work? Now, showing your Figma files is an okay way, but I would say my suggestion to all of you is do a long form presentation if possible for every project that you do. And when I say long form, it could be a medium case study. It could be just on your own personal website. It could also just be Behance as well. Reason why is it gives you the chance to actually explain your thinking that you went through, right? Now, the way you can also think about it, this particular problem statement, if you guys had to guess, by the way, Amit and Abhishek, how many hours did you spend on it? I mean, difficult question, I know, to answer, but what would you say your estimate is?
Like the whole assignment to be worked on.
Yeah.
I think it took me around at least 7 to 8 days just to wrap it up everything. Yeah.
Got it. So
yeah, the whole sprint was like 2 weeks long. So yeah, like
so
close
it's
to
20.
10, 12 days of work plus feedback and then, yeah.
So let's say 20 to 30 hours.
Or maybe more. I don't know.
Maybe more, yeah.
Should track.
Yeah. I mean, just our feedback session alone. I mean, I know it was not just this, but just the feedback session alone was 5 hours. But folks, point I'm trying to make, right, is any project that you do, there is an asymmetry here, which is you have spent 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe more hours working on it. The person on the other end, maybe you're in an interview, you're presenting it, or you're in presenting it to a client or something like that, or it's asynchronous, right? You want people to see this project in your portfolio and go through it. The main challenge that happens is you've spent 40 to 50 hours working on it, but the other person, the reader, has just learned about it. So personally, I like long form documentation of your work, something like this, because it gives you the opportunity to create that timeline, create that storyline of here's what you need to know as a reader. This is the information I had and I was working with. And then here as well, right? We of course saw some of the screenshots from their Figma files, but here is also this is also a nice way to document what anything that you went through, your thinking process. The main difference between a case study and something like just dribble shots is a case study goes in depth. A dribble shot is you see stuff. A case study, of course, you see the visuals, but also gives you a chance to explain what your thinking is. And that's really important as a designer. Are you able to take complex things, break it down, and think through with clarity, right? Something like an audit really tests your observation skills, which is a normal non designer might look at this and be like, hey, there's no issue here. Or what exactly can I do? But as a designer, you need to go one level deeper and be like, okay, what's the opportunity here? What's the problems that can be solved? Okay, enough yapping. Let's go through. Cool. Filters, no filters available. No sorting available either. Photoshopped image of the cards don't give a premium vibe. Kind of, yes. And cards usually do have good photography. Good point here. Okay. Card details. Well structured, but overly emphasizes the conditions. Yeah, you can see a lot of red text here. Okay. Cool. Did they have an onboarding flow, by the way? They did not have something like this, right? That actually takes this information up front.
No.
Okay. Cool. Filters. This is a brand new feature. They did not have it. Redesign explore section. Search bar with filters. Tags. Okay. Photography. Sticky call to action, which is, I guess, this. Okay. Referral flow. Folks, if you were here for the previous just a small note here. If you're here for some of these previous sessions, right? This is the 5th episode we're doing. In the previous session, we talked about just this concept, which is as a designer, how can you approach something from a business perspective? And one of the ways is thinking from the AARRR framework, which is how do you help people acquire users, activate users, and of course all the rest, retain, refer, and then the revenue flows. A good flow to include if you're designing is how can I firstly have a good activation flow. In this case, what's the challenge with activation? We don't want people to drop off way too early because they're like, अरे ये तो scam है, अरे मुझे समझ में नहीं आया, बाद में देखूंगा, and then they never come back. So one of the emphasis, I like that you've included this, which is I think this will help with activation. What's also good is with something like this, the company now gets the data on what people are looking for. So you can imagine that with this, as users go through this flow, the company gets information on, okay, maybe we should now expand our range to also include BMWs because we see a lot of demand for it. That's an additional advantage here. I can see Abhishek's also added a referral flow. Good idea, personally, because given that this is kind of a social experience in the app, which is co-owning it together, I think this is a strong case where maybe you would feel more comfortable if you could also get some of your friends to co-own this, or maybe colleagues, in addition to the other people who are buying the tickets. Okay. So I'm going to come back to the Figjam guys. Can you talk about anything else that we did not talk about? Anything you want to any flows you want to talk about in your designs? Any highlights we should not miss on?
I think I covered most of it because I did not went through the entire app. Like considering the timeline, I just spent most of
Mm,
it on the onboarding and activation.
mm,
But I think Amit went deep down in detail, especially with the community part,
mm,
which I haven't explored that much. So
mm,
I think he can give his input on that end.
mhm,
Um, yeah, so while I was working on the main challenge for me is to how can I explain the user the very concept of the ticket they have introduced within the app itself, because it's so much challenging just to, like, let's suppose ki we are a group of 7 or 8, then how are we going to divide the those tickets to those individuals, because it does not get divided with the 12 months that is present. And so what I did was, like, to easier the process of it, since it's going to take too much time, what I did is, like, I divided the group, like, I'm saying group, but just to make the community of like 4, 6, and 12 people, and divide the tickets equally.
mhm,
So I went through that approach, but I still feel like what if, just in case if there's a group of 8, 9, so how can I approach that? So
mm,
I'm still looking into it. Maybe I'm hopefully can come up with a better approach
mhm,
to explain that scenario as well.
mm. You're referring to this one, right? This thing here.
Uh, yes, yes, yes.
Mm, cool. Cool, guys. I hope that gave you an input. Of course, the challenge with presenting this is these guys have spent hours and hours here, right? In this short session, I can't probably talk about each. Feel free to drop some comments in the chat, folks, if there's something we can go deeper and talk about. Meanwhile, you know, I want to ask you guys this question. Both of you guys, you have some experience with design, working on projects before. The question I quickly want to ask you guys is what was the main, given that you have experience already, what was the main magnet that attracted you to the cohort?
I think the community, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
For most of my career, I've been more like a solo designer, an individual contributor. So I've never had like design mentors as such to like look up to and maybe learn from them. And like there's only so much you can like learn when you're working alone or like just looking at tutorials on YouTube or maybe doing some online courses. But then once you have a group of people or a group of designers working on the same project, on the same theme, you can like think of a lot of different things. So I think that was like the key selling point for me because that is something that I was looking
Mm,
for in terms of upskilling myself.
mm, nice. And in fact,
Um,
folks, those of you who've been watching regularly, you probably remember we actually reviewed Abhishek's other project as well in episode 2 of Alpha Shine.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, Amit? What was your magnet? And maybe you can also talk about post the cohort. What have you been up to?
yeah. So I'm kind of following 10K for, like, basically when it was started, but I did not join like at an immediate stages. And I thought like this was the right time to join. Uh, and obviously I've been hearing a lot about 10K because of the industry mentors that are present and where they have been working with. Then obviously after when I've joined and talking to them, it's like so much idea and understanding you get, like how they work within the company, and you understand their process of you're working with it, which I've been kind of doing it. uh, and that was really helpful for me to That's the main process. Obviously, second thing was to upskill, networking, growth
Mm,
opportunities, upskill, lot of like upskill related stuff that I was hoping that
mm,
I was fulfilled over here. And at the near end of the cohort, when I completed my capstone, I decided that since I have some more time, why not I visit the YC website itself and to look through, scan through what are the companies are there that are presently hiring and looking for the designers. And that's where I saw Landed, and it struck me like, didn't we have this company like in the assignment 3 itself? So I
mm,
went back over there and I saw like, yeah, it's there. So I like, what, I have to do this. And the best thing was it is in Hyderabad. So it's like Sone mein Suhaga.
mm,
So and I just took the chance at the same time. I took the challenge, like, what, let's just take 2 days, understand the whole business, redesign. Um, so they blinded, I'll come to it. What is
mm.
it about?
For some
So
context,
I took the
folks,
part of the,
Landed is one of the Y Combinator startups. I think it's 30, 31, 32. It's this one here, startup 32. And so basically, Amit
yes.
is talking about once he was done, he was like, okay, let me actually go explore some startups. Came across Landed on Y Combinator. It was also a brief here. And yeah, Amit, you were saying.
Yeah, and I did the whole, I took the most important part of the screens over there, which I assumed it, and redesigned it briefly, their home screen, their activation flows, their onboardings, and a lot of other stuff, and made a video. Then I explaining all of this stuff, like the visual and all kind of challenges, and directly cold game to Sanjay, the CEO of Landed, in the LinkedIn itself.
Mm,
And obviously, I didn't get response for the first 2 to 3 days. I was like following up with him again and again behind the over there, and he finally replied me on the election day when it was happening over here, and he decided, like, let's have a conversation quickly at the evening. He did mention like he'll like somebody from the team will call, but that did not happen. But anyway, we had a call. We talked for almost like 40 to 50 minutes. Except for the design, we talked about everything: the work culture, how the company is about, what his company's expectation is, whole other stuff. And I was kind of expecting like he would ask about the designs related stuff, but he did not.
mm,
But anyway, so yeah, so I joined very quickly. Like after I had the interview. Day after that, like I joined the company. I met with PMs that were working there.
mm.
All of them have seen my video, to my surprise. And few weeks ago, one of the
So basically,
PMs
you
was
cold
saying
DM
like,
them along with your cold DM. You sent
yeah, yeah,
them.
with
You
a
did an
video.
audit similar to this one. You put it a
Hmm.
video, a Loom video kind of thing with the video, and then that's
Yeah,
what got you
yeah,
noticed. Mm,
yeah, yeah,
nice,
uh, yeah. So that's the whole thing.
awesome, man. Congrats on the new role. Yeah. Question here, okay, related one. Now, of course, we call this a simulator, but now that you're actually not in a simulation anymore, like you're actually at, um, let's say, startup number 30 here. What do you, you know, uh, maybe weird question, but what's something that you did in the simulator that you're like, wait, this applies in real life as well? Um,
I think just in general, your observation skills,
mhm,
like um, the observation doesn't need to apply only to your projects, but also to things outside of your project, in your life, outside in your surroundings as well. Uh, like one thing that I've started doing off late is um, I don't plug in my earphones when I'm outside all the time. I've seen this habit where people just flip out their phone as soon as they have some time to spare. But it's actually good practice to like kind of disconnect from your screens in order to design for screens.
mhm.
That is so weird. So that is something that I've been doing of late.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool. Cool, guys. So with that, I think we'll wrap up. I don't see any comments. I see comments from from Desh. I think we just answered this, which is he was asking Amit, what's the value you got from the cohort? I think we just answered that. Um, so, folks, overall, I hope you had an interesting look through this. I can understand, I can understand some of this might be complex because we didn't really go through in depth. This is kind of just a snapshot. But if you want to learn more about this, definitely check out this Figjam file. It'll be there in the description. It's also pinned in the comments. Uh, Overall, we do this, and I'm actually looking forward to the new briefs that we're going to put together for Cohort 9, because I think now I'm really going to go deep into Shark Tank. Watch some episodes, bring more Shark Tank related briefs. I think now that we have 3 seasons, perfect time. If you're watching this and you're interested in also going through this kind of experience, check out our website. Um, I think I've pretty much mentioned the rest here, but if you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out. Thanks, Amit. Thanks, Abhishek. Nice going through this today.
yeah,
See you guys.
fun. Yeah,
Bye bye.
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 All right, folks. End of another stream. I see comment from Anish here. Bro, we need new specs. Okay, cool. Yeah, new specs. So, folks, quick heads up, okay? I just wanted to share some stuff with you. We have about 1 week left before the cohort starts. So, final applications, we're just closing it within the next couple of days. We're just going to other than that, over the next week, I'm going to be sharing a bunch of things with you guys because next week is config, so Figma config. I'm actually going to be going to SF, meeting Jenil, who also is the co-host of 10K Designers. We do every session together. But next week is config. So I'm going to make a bunch of config updates. I'm thinking about maybe we can do a stream from there, but I'll keep you guys posted on that. Other than that, the week after that is when the cohort starts. And so, to everybody who's joined cohort 9, I'm going to make sure I get some juicy alpha for you guys. What's new from Figma? What can we do? In fact, I'll also just see if I can get some early access to stuff. I'll have to figure that out. But thanks a lot for watching. We will have another episode of this Friday. In fact, we might have another stream, which is from config. Stay tuned for that. And see you in the next one. Bye bye, guys.